Hello, hello. Alini here with a very quick hot take on Tove, so that you guys know roughly what I think and whether or not you should pull on her. Now, I don't have the time to do a nicely edited video as I usually try to do for these hot take videos, so I really hope you will bear with me on this one. So Tove is an assault rifle Nikke that is a burst 1 20-second water-coated supporter, and her first skill is emergency crafted bullets. There is a 5% chance of activating when attacking, granting herself a buff that reloads 5.31% of magazines, but also whenever she uses emergency crafted bullets, she grants temporary modification to her allies, granting max ammo capacity increased by 2 rounds, stacking up to 3 times and lasts for 5 seconds, for a grand total of 6 rounds ammo capacity increase. She also grants 5.24% of critical damage for 5 seconds. Her second skill, modification successful, activates when temporary modification is fully stacked and affects all allies, granting them 3.32% crit rate continuously, and also grants all shotgun allies a 42.24% attack speed continuously, as long as the temporary modification is fully stacked, essentially. Attack speed is something that we have already seen in Nikkes such as Sugar. It just means that the Nikke will go pew 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 faster, meaning that they will have a much higher fire rate. Her burst skill, Miracle of Makeshifts, is a 20-second burst skill that affects all allies and grants Miracle of Makeshifts, increasing the attack by 2.32% of caster's attack and mirroring the stack count of temporary modification for 10 seconds. Additionally, for allies with shotguns, she grants a 24.21% of caster's attack buff and mirrors the stack count of temporary modifications for 10 seconds. What this probably means is that shotgun Nikkes will be double dipping on this mirroring of stack counts, which is quite interesting as they will be essentially getting a lot of ammunition. Now, should you pull on Tove? I would say that with the low resources after Red Hood, depending on how low they are for you and how interested you're in the Christmas Nikkes, especially since there may be a rerun on top of new Christmas limited Nikkes, I would say she's a safe skip. The reason why I say she's a safe skip is because the limited amount of Nikkes that she can actually support at the moment does not justify it. I am not saying that she is a weak Nikke or a weak supporter, especially for shotgun Nikkes. She's quite solid. And if you really, really, really care about future proofing, you should, one, definitely add her to the wish list of blue tickets if you're skipping. And two, if you have the leisure and the luxury to roll for her, you can grab one copy. Now, for the vast majority of people, definitely a very safe skip. The reason being that currently there are not that many great Nikkes to support, as she grants max ammo count. This means that Nikkes such as Summer Anise here do not work with her. Marciana is also out of the question. Mary, for those few of you that actually use her, she's not there either, and Pepper either because she grants maximum ammo count, meaning that any last bullet Nikke is completely out of the question. In yellow, I put the ones that technically could theoretically work but are not ideal due to current meta settings. So for example, Guilty, as she's a 20-second burst 2, you would have no cooldown reduction unless Shift Up creates burst 3 cooldown reduction Nikkes. In a similar vein, I put things like Viper into that same lot. And of course, same for Noir and Naga, as Naga is kind of locked into the Nagatia comp, meaning that you would have no cooldown reduction should you run her with Nagatia. If you don't care about that, you can run them. That's why I put them in yellow. Same for Noir as well, because Noir is locked with Blanc as well, to some extent. Although for Noir, there is a little bit more of a case to be used, but generally speaking, she's still most of the time locked with Blanc, meaning that it's not ideal, but it kind of works. That's what the yellow crosses means, is that you can kind of run it with her, but it's not ideal, and it's probably more ideal to just run something else with those Nikkes. As for the Nikkes that kind of work, Isabel kind of works if you happen to use her, Neve if you happen to use her, Polly if you're running 2 burst 2s, so Polly plus a cooldown reduction Nikke. The absolute best pair would be Sugar, because Sugar already has a 66% or so attack speed buff, really likes shooting a lot through her burst. But other than that, there's no real good Nikke for Stove to actually support. And that is her main weakness, is that she is not a bad support for shotguns. It's just that the currently available ones are not good enough for what she herself provides. With that out of the way, there is something quite interesting to talk about when it comes to her skill 1. The 5% chance of activating may sound like absolute garbage when you look at it at first glance, because you'd be like, well, more gacha inside of my gacha, right? Like, fuck me. But the reality is that because she's an assault rifles shoot at approximately a rate of 12 bullets per second. We saw that during my 2B hot take. And JP Twitter kind of gave me a little bit of that idea. So they talk about it here is that AR shoot one bullet every 0.083 seconds, which is exactly what I mean by roughly 12 bullets per second. And there is the added probability of the fact that you need 5 seconds for the buff to fully expire, meaning that the actual probability of you losing the buff is 4.607%. This idea I corroborated through my own calculations, of course. We have the probability of success here. We have the shots per 5 seconds, which is 60, and we just converted all of that into the nice little 4.607% chance of losing the stacks. Now, this idea of JP Twitter gave me this idea of, well, we have 4 states. We have 0 stacks, 1 stack, 2 stack, and 3 stacks. 4 states total, with a 95.4% chance of gaining 1 stack and a 4.6% give or take chance of losing all stacks or remaining at 0 stacks. So I procrastinated a little bit on my real life work and decided to, just run this into a Markov chain, which is kind of what I showed in that image, and calculate a little bit what roughly the overall probability of remaining, or rather the uptime of state 3, which would be being at 3 stacks, would be if you run it over and over as a simulation. And that gave a roughly 84.6% uptime on the bullets on the state 3, which is 3 stacks of the buff. Meaning that she will have a pretty decent uptime as long as you're not hilariously unlucky. The expected value is roughly 84% uptime on this 42.24% buff, which is pretty decent. And it will allow your shotguns to just do a lot of damage with their auto attacks continuously. Again, the main issue with her is not that she's too weak, is that the current meta of shotguns just does not support her. You could still run her in Nagatia comps, but it wouldn't be ideal because you wouldn't have that cooldown reduction. And some of the strongest Nikkes, such as for shotguns, such as Anis, just don't make use of her because of the gaining ammo capacity. As far as Arena would go, she's a AR Nikke, so we kind of already know where this is going. Is that, well, the burst generation of AR Nikkes is not exactly the most amazing one. So it's not ideal, and shotgun Nikkes in Arena are a little bit difficult to use at the moment. So her usage in Arena will probably be incredibly limited, if not completely non-existent, as you would need to be able to ramp into those stacks anyways to be able to get there. Well, with that out of the way, I hope this will be helpful to you on deciding whether or not to roll for Tove. And I'll catch you guys some other time. Alienate out.